I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, After Buzzers, and welcome to the Vagrant Queen After Show. I have a very special guest in the house. We have Lazzaro himself, Paul Dutoy. Welcome.
Thank you, Carrie, and hey, After Buzzers, how's it going out there?
Yeah, we're going to talk about in episode 9, part 1 of the epic finale of All Things Old Must Pass. And then James is not able to be here today. You can go check out his tweet for a little bit more info on that, and he will be back for the finale, so not too worried. All right, so episode 9 is part of a 2-part finale. Paul, as an actor, what is it like having a 2-part finale?
Well, I think these 2 episodes, just from my perspective as a performer, what was so great is that this is where we get Lazzaro's backstory. I think up until now, audiences have just been seeing this very mean-spirited, very cruel, very driven man spending 15 years of his life chasing a leader across the galaxy, and seeing almost a psychotic type of meanness to the man. And now, for the first time, we get the why behind him. We see his relationship with his parents. We see the political background to him. And suddenly, audiences are taken to that interesting place where they can start to almost feel sympathy towards the villain of the story. And for me, that's where the script really starts to become interesting.
Yeah, because they could have made it just clean, cut, and dry and been like, he's only pure evil, came from a place of pure evil. But we learn he didn't start out that way. So that was definitely a much more, it makes him a much more interesting character.
Well, I mean, that's what I really identified with in the script. It's where, my South African experience came in quite a lot, because we are very familiar with the concept of the liberator becoming the captor. We have it in our history, with starting with the guys who created apartheid, the Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, Idi Amin in Zaire. It's like a Hitler. These guys start off as revolutionaries, as doing it for the people, and they start to believe their own PR, and absolute power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And there is nothing more powerful than the Sears ad.
That's a very good point, which we get very much at the beginning. I'd seen somebody tweet at Jem that, oh my goodness, she killed somebody so quickly in the episode. We have our prisoner 598. And I'll be honest, I at first was like, is this the Lazzaro flashback? Working out in there? Because we didn't see him. I'm like, oh, maybe he was a prisoner for a while. And then it's like, oh, wait, who's this random person that we get really nothing? And he's dead.
Yeah. And that's part of what I really love about Jem Garrard's script, is that she plays with your expectations. As soon as you think you've got something, as soon as you think, oh, right, I've got this figured out, she does something like that. All this focus on this muscular, big, mean prisoner at the beginning. You think, oh, here comes the big story. What's this guy going to do? And he's actually just a little experiment for Lazzaro to blow up.
Yep.
Great fun to play as an actor.
I was like, oh, that'd be a fun little cameo. Be like, oh, we only need you for, one day or something like that, and be done. Working with the scientist to get the new weapon. I didn't really get a chance to look it up, but was the guy who was the scientist with you, had he been on previously? His smile reminded me of the Sunshine Express ticket taker guy. Or was he a new person?
No, wasn't the same actor. That was Richard September, who's a fantastic actor that I've worked with a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's his cameo in the show. It's a brilliant actor. Wonderful to work with.
Oh, yeah. No, he's almost comedic, and that's why his smile made me think of that other person. So I was like, oh, I wonder. And we have seen that so many times on this show, of actors coming back with prosthetics and be like,
Yeah.
Can you guess if it's them?
Yeah. I think the prosthetic guys really have to take a bow in the show. I mean, the work that they did in transforming artists, and it almost becomes a dialogue between you and those creators as to what it is that you want to do. What do they want? How do they see a character? You know, because it just starts off on paper, on black and white, and then they bring their ideas to it, and you respond to it, and then once it's on, you have to find your way as a performer of working within this mask and this character that's stuck on from the outside. And it starts to change everything about you. It changes your voice. It changes the way you use your face, the way you walk, the way you carry yourself, your center of gravity. Some of them are really, really heavy. I was lucky. I just had those little ears. But, some of the actors, I mean, they spent 6 hours in the makeup chair.
Yeah, we've heard even Alex talked about how her makeup took quite some time, and that was, just like here, and I mean, she has other
she had to get spray painted every morning, the poor girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have wanted?
I had a little bit of an easier time. I just had my ears, but even that, that was a good hour and a half every day.
Would you have wanted to have more? Were you ever envious of the full creations and been like, oh, I want to have more makeup?
Yeah, for about a whole 30 seconds. And then you see the amount of time these poor actors have to spend getting into it. And it also, it does in a way, personally, I want as much of my own physicality and my face and my tool to work with. I really, there wasn't too much time of me going, I wish I could have more stuff stuck on me. No.
Well, you had quite a big, like your armor seemed to be a big prosthetic essentially too. Was that heavy or cumbersome to move in?
It was hot. It was it was a bit cumbersome, but for me, it just added so much. Suddenly you had very much the sense of someone who wasn't powerful in his own right, having to use outside forces to make him powerful. So I kind of liked the idea that I sort of felt like I was swimming in something that was bigger than me. It felt like a wonderful, wonderful thing to draw on, to connect with what was going on with the character.
I hadn't thought of that, but that absolutely makes sense. And I think that's a great description of it because, he essentially is overcompensating.
Yeah. I mean, you know about what they say about guys in big cars.
Yeah. I do have a question, though. I noticed, and I didn't know if it was on purpose, and I wondered if it was a blooper and just kept that way. Later when we see it since we're talking about the armor, later in the speech when Lazzaro's talking to everybody, there's the belt buckle kind of things on the shoulders, and one of them looks flat and the other one looks twisted, and it stayed twisted later. So I didn't know if that was on purpose or if it was noticed and then like, hey, we have to keep it that way.
I don't recall anything like that, and maybe I didn't notice it either. It could have been. I'm not sure. I don't recall any sort of specific detail like that I did, let me leave this twisted. It could have just been the design. I'm not really sure on that one. No.
Well, then I guess a question to double check on that was, when was the scene where you're outside and doing the speech and then inside talking to the prisoners? Were those separate days or same day?
Oh, no, very much separate days.
Okay, then.
That's the magic of it all, is the different locations, which for me was also, the city of Cape Town and environs where we shot all of this really became part of all these. The city of Cape Town became a character unwittingly in the show. So, for instance, that where you saw me doing that big speech, those are the stairs of the University of Cape Town. And, that underground dungeon is just this freaky place in the depths of the industrial area, down underneath this loading area, and it really is that dirty and disgusting and dank. And just all these incredible universes. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say universes. I should say worlds created within the universe of this. Just really added so much. I have two kids, and they've grown up with me being in the business and stuff, and they're quite jaded about it all. And this was the only time I took them to set when they said we want to go back, because it was just they were just surrounded by this magic of aliens and lasers and spaceships and all these adults that completely bought into the magic of it. It was for them like going to Disney World. It was just incredible to see all the adults engaging on a level that just completely would delight a child, and kind of going, well, yeah, these are grown-ups doing this for a living. This is what we do every day at work. It was just fantastic to see it through their eyes.
Yeah, no, it's getting paid to play pretend, and yeah, we've talked about the amazing sets on this show of taking it to another world. We have this set on the ship too. We have Ame giving her message for her brother of like, oh no, they're gonna go into it, and their team pep talk of like, all right guys, we're gonna be going in. We're rooting for our team. Oh yeah, so then you're kind of worried for them, but they seem to be doing all right. And then right after that is when we first get our bit with Lazzaro. I was kind of curious, and then I mean, for the fans and then for you as well, why does he bother going down to talk to the Admiral? I mean, in a way, it's kind of gloating, but I thought that was something a little more interesting with his character, that he doesn't have someone to go talk to, that he picks her of all people of like, I don't have anybody to talk to. I need to talk about it. Because it didn't feel like he's bragging at her of like, oh, look how cool this is. It felt like he just needs somebody to talk with.
Yeah, I think a decision I made about the character very early on is that the people we consider as bad or evil never consider themselves to be that. The character doesn't judge themselves. And given the very twisted history we see, his relationship with his parents, that has left him damaged. He can't relate normally to people. So pain is the closest he comes to feeling anything. And especially because of his relationship with his mother, the line between love and pain is so blurred for him that and empathy and suffering is so blurred that it actually becomes one in his head. So that torture and pain is the only way he feels he can connect with people. So in his weird, in our eyes, twisted way, that's him just trying to connect with someone. And the only way he knows how to do it is to hurt them. But in his mind, he's not trying to be mean to them. That's just how he relates to people. Yeah, and he's not the sort of guy you want to go on a date with. No.
Well, he is still single, so that tells you something.
And probably will be for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. He's too busy with what he's doing, I suppose. And then we've been talking about the flashback. So the first flashback is when we get to see young Lazzaro. Did you get to meet that actor?
Yes, yeah. It was fantastic to actually talk to him, and we could speak about the journey that he goes on, and that he is the most untainted we ever see the guy. We actually had a couple of meetings where we went through the script and we spoke about keys for him. You know, how does he relate? We made sure our accents matched. that our vowel sounds were the same, that we had similar gestures, similar ways of speaking, of carrying ourselves physically, but that mine would be a development of his, so that you could see seeds planted in him and you could see the results in me, which was just an absolute joy to be able to do that.
Yeah, because sometimes when actors have a younger self, they don't always meet them just due to scheduling or what have you. So I was kind of curious on that, and how you get to see the beginning of his relationship with his mother, and it's definitely a strained relationship with his father, and
Yeah,
he wants to be part of this revolution. And at this point, you go, yeah, he's on the right
absolutely.
path, and
Yeah,
he doesn't like the people being oppressed and doesn't like people starving. So you go, okay, but it doesn't, develop
yeah,
in the best plan
yes,
for him path. Yeah.
yes.
Uh,
Well, I think
the,
as people, we often have the desire to see things as black and white, but
mhm,
the world never is that. And
mhm,
often in make believe, we have the temptation to oversimplify the world around us into right and wrong, good and bad, black and white. And what so attracted me to Jem's script is that she didn't do that. This monarchy that Elida represents, we are seen as something, we see it as something that has a rot at its core. And we see an idea like the revolution could do good, but then a rot sets in there very soon as well. So everyone is a shade of gray. No one is
mhm,
black or white. And that's, I think, what makes it far more interesting to watch. I think we can relate to that. In politics, in the world around us at the moment, we are quite aware that there is no perfect side. There's no perfect solution. There's no perfect scenario. There's various grades of imperfection, and us trying to navigate our way through all of this.
mhm. Then we get to jump to 15 years, so only about 7 years later, you get to play your younger self. Uh, it's the Republic Revolution, and yeah, the plan originally, like, okay, we'll just storm the castle, no big deal, and
Yeah.
the Queen and Alita get away. Now at that point, what was it like to be that younger version of yourself?
The version where you see me sitting around that room with the generals where we're planning things and I say,
Yeah.
let's storm the castle. That was actually my very first day on set.
Oh,
That was the very
really?
first scene I ever shot. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because you shoot according to these locations.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was a fantastic location on this deserted beach in the middle of nowhere. It's like the holiday resort that time forgot.
Mm.
It was built as this sort of complex of swimming pools and sort of a place where you can go and barbecue, I guess. And it's just been mothballed and abandoned and boarded up. And the sort of the environment is swallowing it up. And we shot there at night, obviously, and it's literally on the beach. There was this eerie mist coming in off the water, and it really is this incredibly creepy place. But so I'm getting distracted. My very first day was playing myself, 15 years in the past, and again, the makeup department has to take a huge bow, because I was like, guys, how are you going to take 15 years off me? Because 15 years is, you can imagine how you can put 40 years onto me and turn me into this old guy, but 15 years is really not a lot. And it was just amazing. Suddenly I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, where did the lines go? Guys, you are amazing, man. And
You're like, can I bottle the product and take it with me?
Absolutely. And then obviously this hairdo. And I was like, well, there are no small characters, only small haircuts, clearly. So quite something, yeah. I saw someone tweeted that I'd looked like a Kyle MacLachlan tribute from the 80s. I was like, bang on. That is so right.
Have you ever had hair that long?
Oh, and well, we all made huge fashion mistakes in the 90s. None of us are proud of them, but yes, I had very long hair in the 90s, and yeah, I think I've burnt all the photographs. It was
I was
pre-digital,
gonna
so I think
say
I'm
you
safe.
need to like
I think I'm safe.
someone needs to dig it up and share it. Yeah.
It was
So
before Facebook, thank heaven.
yeah. Oh, right. I know. So additionally, 15 years later, this is probably, I feel, the more pivotal point for Lazzaro as a person, because even after the revolution, his intentions are not necessarily as misguided. Even the fellow admirals maybe are on the right path, but at this point, when they're doing the trial, is when I feel the admirals have definitely strayed, and they are absolute on their punishment. If people admit guilt, they are given a sentence in prison, which probably could be the rest of their life. And if they don't admit guilt, they're killed. So you're like,
Yes.
Back to the absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Yes.
Then this is when Lazzaro's parents are brought in, and his father, killing his father, you're like, well, he hated him anyways. Not that that justifies it, but you go, there's much more angst there. But then we get his mother. I feel that is the moment. The fact that he chooses that's when like the alternate path has been created and followed.
That is the moment that breaks him.
Mm-hmm.
And it is in the psychological damage in his gray matter. That's the pivotal moment when it happens. So at that moment, for me, he connects the monarchy, which is his father, with everything that went wrong in his life, which is why the destruction of a leader, Eldaya, becomes his obsession. If I can destroy that, maybe I can destroy that which destroyed me and destroyed my world. And we know it's wrong. But when our psychology and our history makes us do these wrong things, we are never able to step back and say, whoa, you're doing the wrong thing here. That obsession is cemented into his brain at that moment.
Because he pleads like, please, his mother isn't involved the same way, but he still does it. I mean, yes, he could have been killed, but then he still had the choice. So.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But now the interesting thing, playing a moment like that, just I'm married to a North American, but being an African, the situations like that occur across our continent with all the wars we have going on and all the conflict we have going on, and our histories are riddled with these situations. So it really was a very real moment for me. I could approach that sort of scene with a very real sense of gravitas, because that is what happens in the time of revolution and war. Once a fight is over, the winners decide to commit revenge and to wipe out everything that has any links to the past. And often it goes to that very visceral, bloodthirsty, physical, ethnic cleansing of what was going on there. So for me, that was a very, very real moment and something that we could really connect with. And again, it's moments like that for me, took the show from not just being a trivial space opera, but something that speaks to the state of mankind and the world that we're living in, which is why I so enjoyed doing it.
Yeah. Well, because I was gonna say, speaking of brutal, the part when he's doing his speech for in front of everybody and televised as well, and talks about how wants to give power back to the people, and it's one of those. In theory, this sounds great, and it's so difficult to watch because we, the viewers, know he's not a good person, definitely at this point, and everybody watching is like, yeah, it sounds great, and it's just like, whoo. But then when he has the other leaders kill themselves, which was really brutal, and it's like, whoa, that I did like seeing reactions from those watching of them going, wait a minute, maybe this isn't what we thought it was. Because you're just like, oh, please, come on. People need to see he's not as great as he's presenting himself. They're only seeing what he's choosing to share. It's like, that was a rough. How was that scene for you when they were there? Like it looked like it was pretty intense to have, and they killed themselves in such, brutal ways too.
Yes, yeah. See, in my head, it was Idi Amin. It was Hitler. Those guys did those things. They did them publicly, and they had an enormous following. But what leaders like that were able to do is speak to the mandate of the people. What is making you unhappy? What are you missing? I will fill that hole. I will give you what you should have. And in the process, I justify to you that it's right. I get your support. And then that support allows me to do the abominable. And so as a supporter, you come along on that journey. And that's the interesting thing. I mean, we look at leaders like that and we go, how did a Hitler get where he is? How did Stalin get where he is? How did a Verwoerd, who we regard as the architect of apartheid, how could that happen? How could people knowingly support that? But yet, history just repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. But leaders like that, and one thing that all those leaders I've mentioned now have in common, besides a body count, they were all great speakers. They were theatrical men. They all wore these ornate costumes, and they loved nothing more than a podium, banners, and an audience. Because when you play to an audience, suddenly all those personal insecurities that you keep secret can be hidden away, and you can be the icon. You can be the leader. You can be the all-powerful. And if you look into the history of all those people, they were all broken men. They all had huge shortcomings that they hid, but portrayed themselves as these powerful, majestic, perfect answers to their people's suffering. So it was an absolute joy to have a script that just reflected all these characteristics that I find so real in these despotic leaders. It was wonderful. It was an absolute joy to play.
We have Millie in the live chat says, I just wanted to say that you were exceptionally brilliant in this week's episode, sir.
Millie, I love you. We haven't met. I'm sure we could get on.
Well, the other thing too is how media of movies, television shows, and whatnot can bring attention to real history and present it in a different way that some people maybe they wouldn't have recognized it when they see it in real history, but hopefully they go, wait a minute, when they watch a show or a movie.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, but wait, this really happens.
Yes, it does. I mean, it's often uncomfortable to watch, but and people, it's a very long conversation that I don't need to answer. People like Quentin Tarantino have answered it far better than I do. The link between violence in the media and violence in the world. I always remember the quote by Kafka that says that art shows us the flaw in the diamond we perceive ourselves to be. And for me, if it's just light entertainment and a couple of giggles and a couple of winks along the way and a nice song and dance, that light entertainment's got its place. But I think given the world we live in right now, what's going on in the world around us, we need to look at these at the bigger questions and try and reflect on what are some very uncomfortable truths going on at the moment. And so even something as fun and light as a show like Vagrant Queen, which is everything's done with a bit of a wink and a smile and there are a lot of nods to other works that have come before. What I get to enjoy, especially in my character, is I get to hold up that uncomfortable mirror, and people see the difficult things that they don't necessarily want to face. But luckily, there is a certain charm to how the character is written. There is a smile and a lightness to it. It is after all based on a graphic novel. But for me, that's what makes it a far more interesting and nuanced production to watch and certainly to play in.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and it's quite the thing for us to watch because it does bring up all those points you mentioned for sure. So we get the other quote of all old things must pass, which in a way right now, hopefully that will pass too. And we learn
from your lips to God's ears.
we learn in the prison too that the Admiral has killed herself as well, which in a way I hope it's a good release for her because, being alive. The big twist at the end, which don't worry, I know there's another bit of this episode we haven't covered just yet, but we'll get to it. Alita's mom is alive, and he mentions the line, survived the gunshot, and at least you had some company. And it's like, oh, okay, like that I didn't see coming. I thought we had covered that. And as you were saying earlier, Jem makes you think one thing, then just another of, well, wait, she's alive. So that was a fun twist at the end there.
And then you realize suddenly that was the person who he was talking to all that time when he was sitting in the chair, unpacking what's going on, how he's feeling. And as you said, Shame, that's the only person he has to talk to. To the person that brought his ultimate nemesis into the world. The one person that he wants to kill more than anybody else is Alita. And here he sits talking to the very woman who gave birth to her. I just love the dramatic irony in it all.
And that he's kept her alive. Yeah, it's like, which I think we'll get more reasoning on that next week for part 2 finale. So then the other bit that we haven't quite chatted about real quick. So, that's most it with Lazzaro. So we must not forget the rest of our trio, and we'll end on a lighter note with them. So the celebration, but not everyone's a fan. I appreciated that because speaking of current events and here in the US, I must say some of it was very uncomfortable to watch and was like, they even had the red hat going on. I was like, oh, no, was not, not
Make
a fan.
Areopa great again.
Oh, it was definitely like, But again, it's taking current events and, as you were saying, holding up a mirror. So it's like
Yeah,
you should be uncomfortable. So
yeah.
boo on Isaac though for wanting to keep that swag. Come on, I know we love free swag, but not that swag. Like,
You can be sure he does it with a deep sense of irony. Hey?
yeah, no, it's one of those
But
like,
yeah, but that's I mean that's we have to be looking at our leaders right now. In what is globally a really, really difficult time. And it's like all the issues we have been put in a pressure cooker by this virus and are coming out. Be it racism, be it the environmental issues, be it social welfare. Suddenly we look to our leaders who have been telling us what we want to hear and pleasing us with platitudes like, make America great again. I mean, our government in South Africa, their slogan was, "The time is now." For what, guys? It's feeding platitudes and meaningless promises, but telling people what they need to hear. And Lazzaro does that.
Yeah. No, as the group go, back to them of, I'm glad though that they bump into the scav job people, but are rescued essentially by the rest of the loyalists and Bolin and everybody. But they're going to be there to go rescue some of the political prisoners, which was great. One of the really kind of small but funny moments was when Isaac sells them the ticket. It's like, yeah, they're this much each, and they go, okay, cool, we bought them, and it's turned around like, that was so good. I think he didn't expect them to.
Comic timing is just amazing, and he's such a easygoing, nice guy. But when he gets on set and decides to turn it on, he's just on fire. He's absolutely hilarious. With that offhand, underplayed, dismissive sense of humor. He's so good at it.
And then that moment of humor is back also in the group when they're all going through the secret entrance and everything. Also, somebody pointed on Twitter, and yay, finally, Ame has a weapon to defend herself, because this is a situation where she can't just talk herself out of it. And, it comes in very handy. And I like how Isaac wanted to trade her, and she's like, no.
No. And there was also, I mean, her beautiful moment. I mean, I just want, I mean, that when Isaac goes, where did you get that? And it kind of looks like, I stole it.
Yeah, she's
like
so
you
cute.
just want to eat her with a spoon, man. She's so cute.
Like, I'm so proud of you. And she stole it from them. And then another one of, she's getting a little more proper lawlessness to work within their situation. And the other moment that we've
always... She's had a leader show how to be a proper lawless girl.
Yes. Then the other moment that we've been waiting, 9 episodes for, we finally get the Ame Alita kiss. We all know everybody's been waiting for. Like, oh, finally. Yeah. And I like that Isaac has that shush to Bolin of like, let them have a moment.
Dude. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's also, and I think Jem was so clever in putting a guy like Bolon in there with that sort of, Mr. Spock's, sense of personal relationships, where he just doesn't get nuance and it's all about kind of fact. And it's just great to have the juxtaposition of someone like him looking at a moment as important and beautiful as this kiss that's been building up for 9 episodes. It finally happens, and then you have this guy giving his comments on it.
Like,
really?
Like, let's go. Yeah. And it was so nice, and it was almost a cliche thing of, we're going off to our deaths. It's like in a horror movie, like we're all gonna die, but let's pause. But I like that they almost didn't have the kiss. Because I'm like, oh, good. That's almost a cliche thing of like, hey, we have no time to waste, but let's take a moment. But then that's when Ame's like, no. I'm not letting you leave without this moment. And it was so sweet. Yeah. I almost want them to kiss again and then part. But you're like, all right, fine. We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, no, I think both of it played that so well. I mean, Alex and Adrian in their build up to that, just they handled what could have been a cliched moment with lesser actresses. But kudos to them. The way they played it, the way they took the audience along on that journey too. There was just absolutely. I mean, the Twitter just went ballistic when it happened. There were many lumps and many throats. It was beautiful.
And it was just so sweet too, and it was nice too because it wasn't some immediate relationship. It took time, so it gave it a realistic, approach to it.
It didn't. Yeah, moments like that can often be cheapened. But if it just happened too easily, and if it was just for the sense of getting a little bit of little sort of titillation in there, and say, hey guys, look at us, we're going to put a gay kiss in here, please look. It wasn't about that. It was a genuine, beautiful love story that had taken 9 episodes of nuance to build up to that.
Yeah. And then we got, I like this, Millie in the chat says, for once, Tim's character was the one stopping the interruption, not doing the interrupting.
Yeah.
Sounds about right, yes. So we finally get the kiss. Alita has not been able to, later in the palace, is not able to take out Lazzaro. And then the team is going because there's more prisoners. So we'll see where that goes. And I think that pretty much wraps up what happens this episode for part 1. We're going to do a super quick special segment, which is our Winnie Who, Winnie What. I cannot do it as good as James. James does it so well. But since we have you, Paul, thank you. Since we have you, Paul, we generally talk about who the person is behind the makeup. So you mentioned a little bit before on your prosthetics for this show, but is there anything else you wanted to share on how they apply the hair, or the ears, or any other kind of fun extra stuff they did for your character in the show?
Oh, well, I mean, it's an entire process. It starts. I mean, you look at me and you go, it looks like a quick slapdash, kind of effort. But Jilly doing my hair every day, who did an absolutely amazing job. You can see this is me in my lockdown hair. This is what I normally look like. I would walk in there looking like last night's leftover lasagna, and after an hour and a half, Lazzaro would walk out with, well, you had 2 departments. You've got the prosthetics department, and then you've got hair and makeup. So in hair and makeup, I go to 2 people. I go to makeup, and to cover all the bad moments, and if it's 15 years in the past, to take away the crow's feet, and give me the facelift, and then prosthetics and hair would fight as to who gets me next, because either my hair gets in the way of the prosthetics, or the prosthetics gets in the way of the hair. So I don't know if that would change. I think it's like whoever owed whoever a favor, I would go to that party first. They'd manufacture these sets of ears, and they could only be used once. So I used to come home with a set of ears every day. I used to hide them in unexpected places for my kids. I'd put them in their lunch boxes and weird places like that.
Did they like that?
Yeah, they're 2 boys.
Okay, good. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah. So good. Check, I've got my dad's ears for lunch. Yeah. But even just a process as simple as my one would take an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's a hell of a process. But great fun. You've got all this time to slowly see the character take form in front of you. You can go over your script, make sure, because Jem gave me a couple of very long speeches. So 2 hours is very useful to get first thing in the morning to just make sure those lines are still kind of sitting in there.
speaking of that, another question for you from the chat. Adam Rodriguez asked, "What was your favorite scene to shoot on the show up till this point? Unless that scene is in episode 10, which you can't quite tell us just yet."
Not going to too much further. No, but what I really liked is, and because you don't often get it in television and in film, are these little monologues that Jem wrote for Lazzaro. Those moments when he spoke to what we then realized is Elida's mother in the prison cell. That speech that he gives on the stairs like that, they were also beautifully crafted and so beautifully put together that it was just such a joy to be able to go, right, I've got an entire page and a half of dialogue. Where do I start it? Where do I go to? Where do I finish? Where usually in performance, it's action and reaction. You say a line and then someone says one back to you and you react to that and they react to you. Now, the only thing generating all that energy is you. It can't even be the crowd in front of you because they have to be quiet in your take. So, and anyway, you've just got a bunch of technicians and crew kind of staring at you and hair and makeup going, is the wig staying on? So, I really enjoyed these beautiful long speeches that Jem wrote for me. That was just an absolute pleasure.
Nice. Yeah, definitely absolutely can understand how they need to be able to give all that. You can't really get feedback because everybody has to be quiet to get your lines properly. So that's very cool. Nice. Is there anything else you'd like to add up to this point of what the process on filming, or anything you want to share for 10, or anything you would like to add?
Sorry, I wasn't prepared for that one. No, there's nothing I can think of offhand. But I can assure the people out there that working on a project like this, I mean, this has got to be the most fun I have ever had on a movie set in my life. I really felt like a kid in a candy store. You arrive on set and there's someone who presents you with your suit of armor. I mean, come on! You arrive at work and you get an army of stormtroopers with laser guns following you as you march down a passage to go and assassinate someone. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. This is just so much fun.
And it's very fun on our end to watch it as well.
I'm very glad to hear it.
Yeah. And thank you everybody who's been tweeting about the show, commenting and everything, because share the love for the show for sure. Yay. Well, I'm the only one to be doing predictions because Paul, you know what's going down. So I guess predictions for myself. I know, right? It's like well, definitely I'm thinking now that Alita, she's in the house, or the palace, but I'm wondering for Isaac and Ame, them going to lower levels of the prison, that they're going to bump into Alita's mom. I'm concerned they're going to bump into Lazzaro in the crossing, or maybe it might be one of those like they just miss each other, because I was like, oh no, wait, if they're in the same area. But again, as you're watching something, you don't know what timeline everybody's on, because he could be there at this point in time and they're there at this point in time, but you're watching it and it feels like that. So it's like,
what you can also be pretty sure of, that whatever you expect is going to happen, that expectation has been deliberately put in there.
And
chances are we're going to come at you from this side.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to it for sure, because it's one of those. I don't think everything's gonna be neatly wrapped up in a bow in one episode. So we'll see. We will definitely see for next weekend.
We will indeed.
Thank you so much for talking with me, Paul. It was very fun to dive into your character and your experience on Vagrant Queen.
Thank you, Carrie. This was an absolute joy. As we say in South Africa, it was an absolute joy.
Nice. And where can people find you online?
They can find me on Instagram. It's at Paulie_do_toy. They can find me on Facebook as well. And you can even find me on Twitter.
Nice. Yay. Do you have any projects you can tease at this point, or nothing besides check out the finale?
Yeah, there's a project coming out called Bulletproof 3. It's a special that was shot in South Africa. Bulletproof 2 has just been nominated for a whole string of awards in England. So we'll see how that goes here. It was something completely different. Quite a police drama, quite visceral. Some lighter stuff. Again, I'm playing the bad guy. I don't know what's happening. Oh, people only see me as a baddie. I don't know what's going on there. But again, I got a great excuse to ride around in cop cars and shoot people with guns, and great stuff, great fun. So yeah, guys can look out for that.
All right. Well, follow them online to be up to date more on that. You can find me online at Carrie D Lane. That's KARIDLANE. And you can go find James online at James Maple Actor. And again, thank you so much, everybody who watched. If you watch it live, thank you so much. If you're watching it later, no problem. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. And we'll be seeing you next weekend for the finale. Again, Paul, thank you. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.